a spiritual or a paranormal thing. It was a mental thing. And Victor, you said it really well last night, how I was kind of like a surrogate to her family because they did nothing to help her. And now maybe they're upset with themselves without knowing it because I was the one that was there for all the traumatic stuff that went on in this woman's life. And what do I get for it? Death threats. So, I don't know, maybe you guys want to add something to that.
River, go ahead.
It's really a tragedy, and it's sad to me. The whole scenario and the whole story is absolutely devastating to me. I mean, you're trying to help individuals, and it's what we do. No matter, there's giver. I see two kinds of people in the world: givers and takers.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry that it fell on you, and I'm sorry that you can't help her, that you can't be the one. And I'm glad somebody was there to give you advice, and sometimes we have to learn it on our own. It doesn't matter what we say. You're going to do what you're going to do because you feel called to do that. And it is your calling. So don't be mad at yourself. I hope that it doesn't lead to anything violent for your sake or theirs. And, I just send healing to the entire situation. I'm sorry it happened.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, River. I had mentioned this to Chris last night, and one of the recurring themes that's coming up lately is that those of us who do healing and do the work that we do, I was at a meditation about a month ago, and a young man brought up the question that he was struggling between compassion and honesty. And I'm actually in the process of writing an article on this. But that's what it's about. There comes a point when people take and take and take and take, and they never get it, and they're never going to heal because they're not doing the work themselves. And so from compassion, which is what we do in the process of giving healing and giving love and giving support, we have to go to the side of honesty. Because in reality, these people will never get it, will never learn unless they have to challenge these things on their own. And so what happens is the compassion has to be honest compassion, and that honest compassion says you disconnect from the energy suckers and you give compassion to yourself. Because God knows we need it as healers when people start draining away our stuff. So that's really what it comes down to. And as loving and as wonderful a guy as you need, Chris, as you are, Chris, rather, there comes a point where you have to walk away, and that's the hard lesson to learn, but it has to be done.
You're right. It is a hard lesson to learn, especially when you're so used to helping people, loving. I love doing that. I love being able to sit down with somebody, and when I'm done, they go, "Oh my God, did that just really happen?" I love that. I love that feeling. It makes me feel good because I know that I did something to make somebody feel good. I know I made a connection to them. I know I put maybe years of torture behind them by something I said or something I did. I love that, and to be in a situation where I really thought I could help this lady, and I know I did. Okay, to some. To some point, but in the end, it wasn't a psychic she needed. She needed a psychiatrist, and I'm not saying that to be funny. It's just a fact.
No, it just is. And let me say something. I'd like to add something here at the close of the show since we have a little bit of time. It's so befitting to this. Remember in the beginning of the show, and you said, don't the listeners ever have any questions for you, Vic and River? And there was a question that's been overlooked for a little while, and it was something about River, you've been doing this show with Chris and Victor for a very long time now. It was obvious why Chris has picked you as a co-host, but is there anything about Chris or Victor that surprised you about either one of them? And if you had to explain them to a friend, how would you do it? And I'd like to take a moment to do that right now. I've been in the public arena for a very long time. And I think one of the biggest things I have learned, or one of the best lessons I've learned being a medium and in our line of work, Chris, is that the worst mistake we can make is to assume that everyone out here is trying to be the best version of themselves. Whether they're sick, whether they're not sick, emotionally, mentally, physically, what have you. And we just had our last guest was Chuck Banks, and he said, remember that saying, fake it till you make it? And I said, I've never liked that. And I think people throw that around a lot. You know, put your shields up and wear a mask or fake it and do all these things. But we can't do that as mediums or empaths or anything. We're emotional creatures. And the problem I have with that is I can't do fake. I won't do fake. And you and I and Victor, we deal with matters of privacy and the things that people don't openly say or express. We do deal with mental illness. And we quickly see people for who they truly are. And unfortunately, I think that has ended more relationships, both publicly and privately, than I care to count. Now, our listeners should know that the level of professionalism that both Chris and Victor exhibit extends just as far behind the scenes as it does publicly. And if you're lucky, you will eventually meet someone, or in my case, two someones, who will naturally enhance or amplify your own energy, maybe even bring you healing if you're fortunate. And I'm lucky enough to spend a minimum of 2 hours each week with these two gentlemen, except for next Friday, and I'm not happy about that. But, you know, every once in a blue moon, the stars, they just line up. And I really feel as though I kind of hit this co-host lottery with Chris and Vic. Vic is very poetic, he's just a lovely creature. He really is. And Chris, he's so protective. And these men they're both very intelligent and quite perfectly charming. I'm disgusted that somebody would threaten you or try to harm you. I don't like that at all. They flatter me sincerely all the time, and they've kind of placed me on a pedestal here in the lounge. And what lady wouldn't love that? And I'm just frankly offended at this individual, whoever they are, or individuals. And I really hope that they get it together for their mother's sake, because obviously she needs them. You know, and if any one of our listeners can't feel the sincerity of your friendship week after week after week, I mean, seriously, these two are both warriors, right, in their own respective rights. But they also serve as guardians to strangers. So I'm baffled by why somebody would do this, you know. And not only do they serve as guardians to strangers, but to each other and to me. And I admire that, frankly. So Few people can master being both soft and strong, and the world could use more men like these. And that's all I have to say about it.
River, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Outstanding. Thank you. I mean, I'm sincerely touched by that, honestly.
And I can't even use the joke I was going to use, that we put you on a pedestal so we can look up your skirt. I can't say that now after that beautiful thing that you just said.
Yeah, because, you know, I love those jokes.
Oh, God. Listen, River, we only have a few seconds left. Why don't you take us out? And once again, thank you for those wonderful words. I mean, that really, it means a lot to the two of us. Thank you.
You're welcome, honey. Chris and Vic and I, we'd all like to thank you for joining us this evening in the Paranormal Lounge. And as of right now, you're all cut off until next week. But no worries. The first shot's always on us. So thanks, everyone, and have a good night.
Good
night, everybody.
I think we actually were off the air the last 10 seconds, but that's okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right.
That's okay.
That was really...
That was great.
Very